If this were a bigger church, then Chris would probably have never reached me. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Let's Playing World End Economica episode 2. I'd like to thank all the people who stopped by my channel very quickly for episode 1 of the new series of this. Overwhelming response to episode 1 of people looking for downloading anime and finding this for some reason. Oh well. Suppose having a game with a name like World End or Suga Suga is kind of handy, but hello to everyone who stayed up and watched the videos anyway. We suddenly got ourselves an offer end of last time, didn't we? That's how heavy her steps were until she finally caught up to me. She was hesitant to enter. Reese had forcibly pushed her behind the closed door the moment she was inside. She was timid and unable to look my way. Some may say it was because she was young. You startled me. When I said that, Chris's body jumped at the words that startled her. I'm not angry, and I didn't have an episode. I raised the corners of my mouth with my fingers. She smiled awkwardly at my smiling face. Except, unlike Chris in my past, she didn't look away. What did Risa say? That you'd drop it if Risa got mad? Chris closed her mouth for a moment and looked away. She then intensely gazed at me. She wouldn't say that. If I could move my face, I probably wouldn't be able to stop myself from smiling. Reese was the same as usual. You could say that she was more angry at me. Huh? She said if Chris doesn't do this, then I would be drowning in my own lies. So then. But I can't just suddenly get on board with that. I looked away this time. I really am afraid of that world. I don't ever feel like trying to get revenge on Barton. He was the man who stole everything from us, but I couldn't even despise him for it. I should despise him, but I'm the one who hurt myself. But hearing Eleanor's story, I felt excited about that world again after all this time. So much so that I had a nosebleed. I believe I still love it, but what happened then was just too traumatic. I was opening and closing my right hand as I spoke. I had no idea if a spasm would come when I talked about it. Except in spite of that worry, my hand was still soft and warm. She said you're using Hagana's program. Asking that, Chris really did shrink. I'm not angry. I almost said that spontaneously. I'm simply amazed, bewildered even. This church is able to run thanks to that. Yeah. But she said you're not doing it to make money. Yeah. She said she wanted someone to watch over Chris so she isn't swallowed up by that world, ended up like me or Hagana. She didn't answer. I have no qualms with that. I prefer that but not many people have to experience that. Being in that dilemma, being forced to pray to God that wasn't there, feeling like you're about to piss your pants as your vision grows narrow as your mouth becomes a desert. As a desert. Mouth becoming a desert is something completely different. I felt it'd be rude to Jesus Christ hanging in the back of a church, verbalising my state of mind at that time, so I apologised with my heart. Also, you may lose things that are important to you. There will be times, of course, you'll be forced to put out everything. Of course, you may think what you won't screw up like I did. I don't think that. Risa's worried. She has me and Hagana as an example. Also, if it's just to contribute to a church operations, then you'd be able to do it with just the rose seed money. Chris, is there a reason you're not doing it like that? She went silent and drooped her head. That surprised me a little. I couldn't believe it was something that would be difficult to talk about at this point. For Eleanor? She hesitantly shook her head. When she stopped shaking, Chris slouched her head like she was tilting, pressed her lips together slightly, and looked up. Looking up at that troubled face, I felt an intense pressure. She wasn't going to say she was trying to save everyone from back then by working with this girl, was she? I could laugh that off as being impossible. 4 years ago, when I was the same age as Chris, I absolutely seriously thought, right to the very absolute tips of my hairs, that I could be the richest person ever and go where no man has gone before. Biting down on her bottom lip and clutching her quivering fists, she spoke. Haru, thank you for that brush. Huh? I'll make good use of it for the rest of my life. It's like she was saying farewell. When I thought that, Chris then looked straight at me and spoke honestly. I want to become like Barton. I wasn't able to grasp the meaning of those words for a moment. I want to become like Barton. She said it once again, taking a deep breath with tears in the corner of her eyes. I believe I know exactly what I'm saying, but it's true. That's the only way I can think to express what I want to say. I thought I was crazy and mistaken so many times, but that's the only way I can think about it. I want to live freely like that. I couldn't put words together. It was difficult to breathe, but... She stuttered her words tearfully. But it was you who made me start thinking like that. Her beautiful eyes looked straight at me. The colour of her eyes, wet with tears, was something close to aquamarine. Conviction, drive, methods, and action. Not caring if anyone tells you this or that. Not giving away just because someone believes in something. You were so amazing moving forward, like an unstoppable force. I still remember the impact you had back then, when I learned that you wanted to cut the money gained from my farm entrusted. The reason I scratched my nose suddenly was because I had a nosebleed earlier. It wasn't because I felt nostalgic about what happened. It was because I had a sensation like there was blood dripping somewhere inside my head. She said that my nosebleed was from passion. My unwavering conviction and passion for my decisions back then. At that time, it felt like my soul was being siphoned out. I never imagined there were people who would say something like that. Father was shocked and disgusted, but I became fascinated by that moment. But I wanted to be like that, so I... She rubbed her eyes with her sleeve without even taking off her glasses properly to blow her nose. But you had... And after that I ended up in this miserable state. She was worried I'd throw a fit or be worried, but I said that in a relaxed tone, so she nodded. That nod was quite bold, even for Chris. But Barton was different. I've been researching him all this time. What kind of a person could do something so terrible, so incredible? Looking it up, I wasn't able to find a lot, but I found bits and pieces, all of them incredible. So amazing, you'd tremble. I hated myself. Hated myself for only trying hard for someone else. Because everyone was cheering me on, for my father's sake. But I'm not saying that I hate my father, that's not it. She repeatedly wiped her eyes. That may have been more that she hated how confused she felt, as opposed to trying to wipe away the tears. Also, I don't like money. I don't ever want to be thrown around by that again. So this time, I want to be the one throwing it around. Also, I want to live as I please. When she finished saying that, the only sound echoing through the church was Chris's sobs. I had no idea what to say. She had said this to anyone else, they'd say it was funny. But since I've seen how hard she worked, I couldn't bring myself to say it. No matter how much I looked at my right hand, it showed no signs of stiffening. Wanting to live the way that she liked. Not caring about those around him, and only looking what's ahead. I knew that feeling very well. Pitifully well. I repeated those words again and clenched my right hand into a fist. I knew pitifully well enough that I was no longer like that. So that's why you need all that capital, right? The gains from investment up until a point simply increase proportional to the funds you're using. You end up with very different amounts depending on how large your funds were to begin with. Meaning you couldn't compare what Eleanor had with what Thoreau had saved up. And what most important being the spearhead of Eleanor's investment banking, not as an amateur, but as a professional facing off in that world. It was just that I felt something peculiar in Chris's confession. I did believe that Barton was amazing, and for a while I looked up to him as a mentor. Yet this is how I ended up. I thought that this was the end for me, but I didn't even imagine there were people around who were looking up to me at that time and seeing what I'd done. So asked me to work for Eleanor. It's out of a programme, and I'm not sure how much I can help. I'm not being modest or putting myself down. If you don't use the skills for 4 years, I'll wither. But... She was mumbling. She must have had another reason. Thinking that, I continued talking. Is there something else? From between her tear-soaked sleeves she spoke. Her face became beet red. Because I... You? Huh? I was jealous of Miss Agana. She then hid her face in her sleeves. Looking into Chris's shaggy blonde hair, I had to let out a small sigh. It was quite wonderful being liked by someone. Except there's nothing worse than when that person doesn't respond to those feelings. I can't be like I was in the past, even if you invite me along. I know, but... Even still, I'm happy you invited me along. Really? Even though I knew you were saying something quite cruel, I didn't try to sugarcoat it. She tried to ignore those words, but Hagana was still in my heart. Deep down in that most precious part of me resided that girl in black. So, where did you meet? I won't continuing any further would just hurt Chris, so I changed the subject. Eleanor? She didn't respond for a bit, but she finally spoke after rubbing her face with her sleeve once more. It was almost a year ago. Between my studies, I was searching for that stuff from back then. Happened to come across it from a forum online, where someone had a log of that stuff. So that was Eleanor. Yeah, that started it. We began talking about things. It was mostly about investing, though. While she spent some time studying, she divided that time even further to learning investing. Felt like there's no way we could be part of the same species. Haru? Huh? You're almost like a missing person in that world. In front of Chris with an uneasy, upturned face, I found myself slightly dumbfounded. I am? Yes. The person who won the contest back then has since become incredible, but you, who lost, was able to chase after him is as well, they say. If I believe what Barton said, when he was a super elite raised on terror. Besides that, there are many on the leaderboard who went off to make their mark in the world of finance. I was more surprised and somewhat disappointed and happy, knowing I was valued so much. Was it really that easy? Was that all it took? So it's because of that 100,000 Moors. There's a reason behind why Eleanor wanted to list me, at least. Finding a guy with an MBA with no achievements, and thrusting your finances at him, and throwing some money on top of that. If it's just to gouge someone's abilities, but 100 grand was a pittance. It might just be that simple. That was indeed very much like that world. Within the silence that came after, I ruminated over the conversation. It was too intense for me, as I pretty much had my head stuck in my mud sleeping for the last 4 years. I'm not sure why, my mood was frighteningly pleasant. I then started bleeding from my nose as if blood clatters cleared from my brain. It was probably from me hurling out my indecisiveness. I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply. No matter how many times I searched through my mind, the first thing that came out was always the same. When Chris said, I want to live a free life, I wasn't able to do that for the last 4 years. Where did I really want to go? I was fooling myself. Is there a link between talking to me everything and your dream? Wanting to tell someone everything you're thinking? Or is it because you're in front of that bearded guy? That's not it. It probably wouldn't matter if I watched over you or not. You can't live like you want if you're listening to someone else. But even still, wanting someone next to you watching you go forward. I no longer had my dream from back then. All I had left was being able to look back at my life and saying it was fun. My goal was lost. It was left only with my efforts. However, what I realised when I'd wakened before Risa, who's kind yet scarier than my mother, and the impact that left me with a nosebleed was that, even without a goal, I still love those methods just as much. All I had to do was just imagine what Risa said, alongside what Hagana would think she saw now. Holed in that government branch office, behind the walls and regulations, desperately protecting myself with lies. She'd probably faint. Yeah, if she saw me hanging around the world of investments, still fearing a mistake I made without a speck of a dream left in me, she'd probably detect a sigh and ask, are you an idiot? Which way would I have to go if there was a chance to apologise for pushing her hand away? Which one would she leave an engineer to? In this case, I already know the answer. Accepting your past self and refuting your past self were different things. If I thought about it like that, wouldn't it be one of the greatest thrill rides to be by her side watching an enormous dream of hers unfold, so grand, yet still hidden away within that live body? Regardless of what I said, I was still half terrified and half in love with that world. Scratching scratched my nose, which had been bleeding from the excitement, and stood up with my crutches. She looked at me in daze, maybe from being so lethargic after crying so much. She said this must be the will of God, and well, I think so too. I said that while opening and closing my right hand. Also, I might be Barton again if I were turned to that world. Huh? That means... Not that I want to murder him or anything. Interesting enough, there's something I'd like to ask him. Something to ask him? I really did think I'd never get a chance to. I murmured as I rubbed my face. Don't tell Risa, it'll worry her. Yes. Then... Of course I won't tell her about you, also have this empty face here, so Risa won't suspect me of anything. She finally smiled awkwardly afterwards, after I said while pinching. Also that brush. You don't need to treasure it for the rest of your life. Huh? I'll get you another when it breaks. I said that while scruffing up Chris's hair. She puffed out her cheeks and brushed my hand away. I'll buy my own, the same kind. I pushed up the corners of my mouth and walked off. She also stood up and opened the door of the church for me. I expected Risa to be listening in, so looked down the corridor to left and right, but soon she wasn't. She was very meddlesome. When it mattered, she was adamant about things being proper to a point of fastidiousness. Because of that, the situation from 4 years ago went sour. But also probably because of that, I had never once thought of that decision that was wrong. Even though this is the moon. Huh? Chris responded to my murmurings, but I didn't respond. Even though this was the moon, it was like an unexplored planet. People can never be rational. Even so, I went to a kitchen. The people there were making a fuss about their star, Chris, and Risa handled things as I looked at them, I maybe thought this wasn't bad after all. Raina said it was unfortunate when Malice failed a lunar service. I thought that was exactly right. Well, thank you very much for watching another episode. Join me again next time when I carry on the story a bit more. But as ever, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.